Hi, this is Miss Hadi. I want to teach you about the Song Dynasty. The last time I shared a video with you, we were talking about the fall of the Tang Dynasty. When the Tang Dynasty collapsed, there was a temporary collapse of effective imperial rule, and warlords took over China until the Song Dynasty reimposed centralized imperial rule around the 900s, the late 900s, and it's going to last for about 300 years as the Song Dynasty. But the thing to remember about the Song Dynasty is the last few hundred years that it's in power, it's actually much smaller. We call it truncated. And so it's smaller, and it's actually referred to as the Southern Song. Now, the Song Dynasty is going to have a much heavier emphasis on the administration, so the civil service exam, the bureaucrats that we talked about earlier with the bureaucracy of merit, industry, education, the arts, and it's going to de-emphasize the military. And that's largely because of the way that the first emperor came to power, Song Taizu. He's the one who started this whole de-emphasis of the military because he came to power as a military ruler. So he always sort of distrusted other military officers as potentially having the ability to take power away or become more powerful than him. And so over time, he starts to when he first came to power, just so you guys know, he used to be a military officer. His troops saw him as very honest, and they're going to basically select him and proclaim him emperor. And then he's going to take over large parts of China and consolidate or strengthen Song control throughout the China. When he comes to power and becomes stronger, he persuades his generals to retire, effectively trying to remove them from any ability, any position of being able to take power away from him. And then he initiates this centralized administration that are run by bureaucrats who have passed the civil service exams, and basically it expands the civil service exams more than any of the predecessors like the Sui and Tang dynasties, and even puts these bureaucrats in charge of the military. So another way we can call the bureaucracy of merit is we can call it the meritocracy. And as I said, we're going to see these bureaucrats running even the military, which isn't going to be very good for the military because, of course, they lack experience. This map is not really effective here to show you now, but I might as well explain it. This shows you the Song Dynasty after it's become smaller, after it's truncated because it's been attacked by nomadic groups. So this is partly due to the reason I just mentioned, which is that the military isn't going to be as competent as previous militaries because bureaucrats are running it. So I'm about to explain to you in the next slide how first it has to deal with attacks from the Khitan and then from the Jurchen people who established the Jin Empire. And so there's going to be the Jin Empire to the north and the truncated Southern Song to the south until both empires fall to the Mongols eventually in the 1200s. So as I mentioned, the Song Dynasty had a much more centralized imperial government than previous Chinese dynasties. That's going to cost a lot of money. The amount of people who are officials in the Chinese dynasty costs money. So the size of the bureaucracy puts a heavy drain on the economy because it costs money. So the government has to find a way to get more money. They try to raise taxes on the peasants. That's going to lead to discontent and two peasant rebellions in the 12th century. The people in charge of fixing the economy and fixing the government and basically reforming the government so that it has to pay for less bureaucrats are the bureaucrats. And so there's some inertia, there's a lack of desire to change things because if they change things, that would eliminate their positions or their jobs. And so that's part of the problem with why they don't reform the bureaucracy. Another problem, as I mentioned, another weakness for the Song Dynasty was that you have civil servants, people who've passed the civil service exams running the military. Oftentimes they lacked military training and they're just not very effective. You know, if they had experience as soldiers, they would be better than if they had just passed civil service exams in literature and philosophy and knew about writing 8-legged essays, and that's what you needed to do to pass the civil service exams. So they're unable to contain attacks from the north. The first attacks are from the Khitan that take place largely in the 10th and 12th centuries. These are semi-nomadic people from Manchuria. They're basically ruling in the north. They end up demanding tribute, so gifts from the Middle Kingdom, which is unheard of, the gifts of silk and silver. And then eventually the Khitan themselves are overrun by another nomadic group called the Jurchen, who then also take over northern China and capture the Song capital of Kaifeng and basically establish what's called the Jin Empire. And that forces the Song dynasty to retreat towards a place called Huangzhou, a port city, and it survives in southern China until I mentioned it falls in 1279